Davies in the middle. Checks back against Carter and scores. That is atypical for the Amina Margot.
Quickly gets it back again. Oh, what a goal! Well, that sums up her season. The Gunners are WSL champions.
'Twas the night before kick-off at Meadow Park, 162 days ago. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Vic Akers Wonderland. My name is Matt Roberts, and I am joined by the one and only Adam Salter. How are you, Adam?
Mixed emotions. Glad to be obviously doing a pod. Obviously, it's good to be doing that again. Bit of a downside with the Arsenal men's game. For those listening, the Arsenal versus Newcastle game has just finished, and obviously didn't go away, so a bit of a downer. But it's good to be doing the pod to get us back up and running again. The international break is finally over. WSL football is back. Got a fair bit to talk about already, and looking forward to talking about as we record tomorrow's game against Manchester City.
Well, let's just get it kicked on then. So England started off in their Nations League qualifiers for Paris on a good start. Gunners Lotte Wubbenmoy and Alessia Russo both being named and called up for the England squad. Couple of interesting calls in that, including Chiara Keating getting the nod, a fourth choice. It was then other players as well that were involved in that team as well. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but there was a lot of the regulars that has been either at the World Cup or have joined in the past. There wasn't really any new names to really talk about apart from Chiara Keating. But Adam, just before, did you think that this was going to be a good time to be tested for England?
I mean, I think tested is probably the right word. My concern always has been with the internationals, especially watching the women, is that there's always a gulf between quality. And we remember those 20-0, 10-0 score lines that offer absolutely no insight into where we stand in the grand scheme of things. We have to wait until the summer and hope we get lucky with a few draws, with how the draw works, should I say. So this new competition, the Nations League, sort of revamps it, and this is the Nations League. This is to allow you to, if you win, you qualify for the Olympics in Paris, and that's the idea.
Yeah, there's another qualifying phase, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, these fixtures are a step up, which is great. We need stronger international fixtures. I think Netherlands definitely provide that. Scotland, I think they are actually a decent team. And Belgium are a bit of obviously an up-and-coming side. We saw them in the Euros. Well, it wasn't last time, but the summer before that. I mean, crikey, we're getting on a bit now from Euro 2022. But we know they're a decent side, even though we did beat them. I think it was 6-1. I think it was in the Arnold Clark Cup, just before we lost Captain Lear, sadly. And I think it did show on the pitch just sort of how far sort of Belgium have improved. I think the first game we won 1-0. Hemp, obviously bundling in. I think it was a bright header came off the post. But I would say across both matches, I would say we were probably unconvincing. I don't know if you would agree with that.
I think that first game, I think it was a lot of uplift towards it. The fact that Lauren Hemp scored was great. It could have quite easily been 2 or 3 on the night, maybe looking at the fourth. It was just felt almost like a lot of these players were fatigued, or they had something else on their mind. They weren't fully focused on going out there, getting the result that they really needed. and then to go away to Belgium a couple of days later. This is one thing I don't like. It comes down to like cut fishes. It's like take
The
City
coefficients,
for
yeah.
you take
Yeah.
City for example. Last season we played City in the Conti Cup at Meadow Park. Then we played them a couple of days later in the league. I don't think it really helps anyone. I think it would be better if they were able to stop this
Oh, you mean
kind of
having
type of
international
yeah
double headers playing the same
yeah.
team? Well,
It makes more sense to have that sort of break, so then it doesn't lead into something. Because just imagine, say, further down the road we have a double header against
Spain.
Republic of Ireland, for example,
Oh,
and
hold on, yeah.
that decides who's going to top the group and who's going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That would kind of frustrate me a little bit, knowing that, say, England get 3 points and then Ireland get 3 points, and then say Ireland go top by goal difference of one, and then that's it.
I think the thing is, and I get the frustration of the idea of having played the same team twice, but it's not isolated. I mean, in European football, Champions League football, you have that same logic. You'll have a double header at the halfway point in the group stage.
With
The difference,
a
obviously,
break.
the difference is obviously you have club football in the middle. But it's not, dreadfully uncommon. It just, you create these weird sort of, I only played you 3 days ago and now you're playing again. My biggest concern out of the international break for England was the second game against Belgium, away in Belgium.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of laying bare a few of the flaws that have still yet to be rectified with England. And we should obviously make the big caveat that we are missing one of our best forwards and our best defender in the side. I mean, that's just, they are irreplaceable. Beth Mead did not get called up for the England squad, whereas Fifi Meadow did get called up for the Dutch national team. But Mead was kept at home. Obviously, Williamson's a long way off. And the problem we've got is that our back four, with the players available, can't operate in the way that Wiegman wants us to operate without Leah Williamson to that level. And the problem was made even worse when Alex Greenwood went off with what I can only describe as one of the worst head clashes I've seen on a pitch for quite some time. Now, thankfully, Greenwood's all right. My understanding is that she won't play this weekend. Rightly so. Obviously, wish her full recovery. But the clash itself was just obviously horrific. The problem is that we had to obviously sub her off, and we brought Jess Carter on. Now, what we ended up with was you had a defence of Charles. Well, Charles, I think, was playing as a fullback. I think it was. Memory serves. I will check my notes. But I think it was fullback. So you had Charles, Bright, and Carter, three of the back four. Well, they play for Chelsea and they play all right for Chelsea. The problem with Chelsea is Chelsea play the back three, and for me, Charles as well, but Jess Carter definitely. I don't see it as a back four defender. I see it as a back three. And if you're bringing Jess Carter on, you have to change to a back three, and we didn't. We still played that back four, and there's a reason why it worked to an extent of the World Cup playing the back three, because you had safety numbers. You had Bright, who usually plays in the back three, Carter usually plays in the back three, and it would have been fine. We could have had Neem Charles as a wing back, and all have been well. We stuck with the back four, and we looked so open on the counter, like ridiculously so. I think Belgium had 4 chances, maybe, and scored 3 goals or something like that. Or they had 3 counters, scored 2 goals. I remember one they ran clean through, and Earps had to pull off a really good save sort of from close range. Obviously, their equaliser at the end of the half came on the counter. The penalty came on the counter, and I just don't think we can play that way with a 4 and defence without Leah Williamson. I don't like England playing the back three. I didn't like it in the World Cup. I know it got results. Obviously, got to the final. We got our play because I feel we lose the midfield battle. I just wonder against Belgium, we might have done better had we gone that way. At the other end of the pitch, I thought Kirby looked good. I said, shout out to Kirby, obviously back in the England team. Great goal. I thought Kirby looked really sharp. Russo, obviously we wanted to do well, as Arsenal fans, but and when it came to goal scoring, obviously she did miss a few. But what she also gives you is good stuff in the build-up play with the hold-up, running, bringing other players into the game. I think it was Kirby had a chance in the second half that would have taken us 3-2 up. all came from Russo pinging a great ball over the top for her. And understandably, Serena says, okay, 70 minutes, whatever it was, I can't remember what the time was, 60 minutes, 64 minutes. Russo says, right, we need to change of attack. I'll take Russo off, put Daly on, and then our attack just completely flatlined and we had nothing. And that was what really concerned me, is just how blunt we were in attack for the last half hour or so. And, Belgium got one counter, got the penalty, and I could just not see us scoring. So it was a rare defeat for us. Probably puts our Nations League sort of qualification out for the Olympics in jeopardy. I can't see us. I don't think we will qualify for the Olympics. I don't think we'll be relegated necessarily, but I think we'll fall short. I think it's going to be a toss-up between Netherlands and Belgium. I think the Netherlands might pip it. But at the same time, I don't think it's such a bad thing that we missed out on the Olympics, considering the fixture schedule that the players have dealt with. They've had to play an international tournament every summer since, I think it was 2021. I think 2020, and that was obviously the COVID shutdowns. They haven't, it's been international tournaments every summer and will continue to for quite some time. So if they get this one off, I wouldn't be too upset. But yeah, food for Serena Wiegman, food for thought for her. You said about the selection, and that's another big thing, is it's all the usual suspects again. So as much as I think it was, you said, was it Cara Keating you said got called up for a Portugal's keeper? Yeah, there was no chance she was going to play. There's no chance she was going to play. There's no chance that Lottie Wubben-Moy was going to play, because it's just, we'll play the same team. We'll play Walsh, we'll play Stanway, we'll play, was it Toon, Rousseau, whoever it is, we'll play the same team as we always do. I should just actually, it wasn't 64 minutes, was it? It was, I just want to check my notes.
It does make you wonder, though,
68 minutes.
Should, say, Millie Bright be injured, obviously Leah Williamson's on her way back. If Millie Bright, let's say Millie Bright's not available for December's fixtures, that's another huge centre back that England have lost.
I mean, we are
at
on
one
the verge,
point,
aren't we? Yeah.
At what point does Lotte Wubben-Moy have to be consistently playing and doing fairly well and providing consistent performances before she can finally say, look, I'm playing regularly, I'm doing all I can to get into this squad, but you're still not picking me.
I think the thing with Serena is that she prefers it's a bit Southgatey, that she has her team and she prioritizes making that the team, the starting 11 basically, as strong as possible by playing them all the time, because like a club level, you build up those relationships, whether it be in defense, midfield, attack, the combination plays, because if you keep chopping and changing, because you only get a game every month, every 2 months or so, and then it's back to the league. So you only get a small window of 2 games. So you want to build up what you think is going to be the team that will take you forward. And if you play 20 different combinations of players, you're never going to build up that team. It's just going to always be a mishmash. But the trade-off is then that you're not finding out what your wider options is. And when injuries do happen, like Leah Williamson and Beth Mead, we're sort of struggling to rebuild that team again. I'm convinced if Leah Williamson and Beth Mead were in our starting 11 for both Belgian games, we'd win them comfortably, because the team knows how that operates. Wiegman needs to obviously find a solution. I think she maybe needs to embrace some of the talent you got on the bench. I mean, look, you had Wubben-Moy, Laetitia was on there as well. Obviously, I know you're a big fan of Jess Park. She was on the bench as well. She didn't get a look in. There's questions over Ella. That's the other weird one, was obviously with Kirby starting, Ella Toon was on the bench.
That was good to see, though, because it actually meant we've spoken to Maisie, who's been saying Ella Toon's been consistently playing basically for the last 2 years. So she finally got a bit of a breather sitting on the bench for fucking Kirby.
She did, but the issue I find is that if you're bringing Toon on, but you're taking Russo off, and we know that those two play very well together. We saw it in the Euros. So you had the opportunity to play for the last few minutes, play Russo and Toon together, and maybe hopefully that combination the two of them they built up from club level could come over against the international match. But no, they were just sort of two isolated sort of subs, and so it's like you give it with one hand, you take it with the other. And I just don't think. I think in those last few minutes, I don't think Toon really did anything. I'd say neither did Daly. Neither did sort of the whole thing, like I said, just flatlined. And yeah, it was a deserved defeat in the end, which is a shame. So I'll be intrigued to see what team we go for. I think it's Netherlands at Wembley, I think is next. And
then Scotland at Hampden Park.
Yeah, I would be very curious to see how who Serena picks and how we line up. I do, it's given, is it December? I think it is December the games are.
Yes.
Yeah. Whether someone like Mead is fit enough to play for England, even if it's off the bench. I think there is if she has a strong, run of fixtures with Arsenal. Obviously she came off the bench in the last two and has looked okay. So if she can build her fitness up, I think she has a chance of getting back in the team. And they have missed her, and I think she would give them a good boost ahead of those two games.
Just on the Belgian game as well, Frank Kirby scored. Lucy Bronze did score for England.
Good. It was a good header.
She seems to pop up with these headers now and then for England, and it's great to see.
I remember the one she got against Sweden. It was a very nice in the Euros. It was a very good header. I was very happy with it. But yeah, I was following that game. I wouldn't watch the first half. I was sort of following it from a distance, and I did think once Bronze and Kirby got on the score sheet, I was thinking, okay, right, we've put that to one side. We've had a rough start. We should say about the free kick. Great free kick by Belgium. I think the wall was questionable. Mary Earps seemed to sort of give up on it halfway through.
There was no way she was going to stave it.
I don't think she was going to get there, but
she looked at it as if to say, I could try, but I'm not going to get there. And
yeah, that's sort of the feeling. But it gave. She probably couldn't have reached it. I would also say maybe it's not a good look, shall we say? But I would say the free kick, the technique is brilliant. It's a brilliant free kick from Belgium, gave us a lead. But I thought, obviously, once Kirby got the goal, and it wasn't that far from half time. I mean, it was 44th minute. We just had to see out the half, go in 2-1, and we can go again. And yeah, I think they scored pretty much the last kick of the half to equalise, and that was sort of it, really. But fair play to Belgium. They've beaten the Netherlands and they've beaten England in Belgium. That's three. That's quite a big scalps they've got there. As things stands, they're second on 7th in their group. Netherlands are first on 9th. We're third on 6th, and Scotland with the solitary point. So yeah, if we're gonna get into it, we should say we're on 0 goal difference. Netherlands are on 5. So there's a lot of result swings that got to happen if we've got any chance of topping the group. So yeah, so December should be fun.
Yeah, just to put it this way, essentially, that these matches will decide what's going to happen with qualifying for the Olympics. So whoever goes top, whether it be Netherlands, us, Belgium, they will go into a tournament. France have already qualified, so essentially that means that France actually, I believe they've topped their group as well. So essentially, wherever France finished, if whatever you finish in that first, second, third, fourth, wherever you finish, you're going to be qualifying for the Paris Olympics in the summer. But it wouldn't. However, if England were to miss out on that on second, they would stay as they were. Our Arnold Clark Cup then would happen in February. Although, if they finish third, they would end up playing in a relegation playoff between one of the other teams in the B League. We're not too sure who that would be because it's going to be most likely another draw.
It's basically like the men's one where it's really complicated to explain. But when the format sort of happens, it all makes sense and it's quite fluid. Yeah. But yeah, I remember the men's one. I remember people trying to explain how it all works, and that was when we had 3 team groups, not 4. And I couldn't get my head around it. But yeah, once it all gets going, it should be very straightforward. Hopefully, we don't get relegated. I think there's a good chance. I think if you get second place, I'm assuming. I don't know if is that a dead spot in the group? You won't get relegated.
Second place is the only dead group. Second position. Or fourth, because if you finish fourth, it's an instant relegation. So then that would mean that in February we'll play on the Clark Cup.
So if you finish second, we don't qualify for the Olympics, but we don't get relegated either. So it's sort of like that's what I could see us. We're only a point behind Belgium as it stands. I could see us getting second place, and if we did that, we go, okay, fair enough. We move on. If we beat Scotland away, fingers crossed. If we get maybe a point against the Netherlands, we could do it. So we'll see what happens.
It's all very much a wait and see, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think Scotland are going to play a vital part no matter what, because they have to play Belgium and they also have to play the Netherlands as well.
Before we move on, we should just say Scotland. The thing with Scotland is weird. The idea that England, the whole England, Scotland, UK, GB, Team GB, whatever it is, the idea that England are representing Team GB's qualification path, but Scotland, which is part of Team GB, aren't. You end up with this real massive conflict of interest that's going to happen at Hampden. I don't know, is it a Hampden Park or wherever it is that Scotland? It is a Hampden Park. Last game of the group, where Scotland, if England get a good result, the Scottish players could be playing in the Olympics. But you don't want to lose to England in your own backyard. So it's really bizarre how that's panned out. So again, another wait and see. That could be a very intriguing game to watch.
It does also question the draw itself because it's also made a lot of errors. But anyway, we'll also talk quickly on another England, this time the under-17s. Goalkeeper Hope McSheffrey, Leah Harbert, who's currently on loan with Watford, having a fantastic season, and Isabella Fisher, a forward, have all been called up for the under-17s for England in their qualification pathway. Wishing them all the best of luck for that.
Yeah, congratulations to them. Best of luck, and do your nation proud.
And we will just quickly mention, because there has been another game today.
Yes, we may as well move on to today's game. What was the scoreline, Matt?
It was 6-0, and someone is sitting here smugly. It's not me, by the way, of a few of his listeners.
Yes, so the early kickoff, there's a Saturday game, early game, and yes, Aston Villa, pointless. Aston Villa, bless them, had Chelsea rock up at the Poundland Bescott Stadium, and I think it's fair to say, Matt, they got walloped badly. 6-0, 6 different goal scorers. I'm smug because I predicted this, but this is when the reverse jinx backfires. Sadly, I honestly didn't think Villa really had a prayer, because I know how ruthless. Well, we all know how ruthless Chelsea are. We've suffered it ourselves. And I know that there've been games when they've gone and they've racked up a cricket score. I think there was a game. I think it was Everton at Kings Meadow last season, where they just pulled away and pulled off like 6 goals.
Was it Reading?
Was it Reading? Oh, whoever it was. I just know that there are games all like Leicester or Wales, things like that. Suddenly they're just. If you're not at it, if your team is not at it, if you haven't got the right cohesiveness, the right game plan, if you are not a team, if you're not united and set up properly, then Chelsea will just destroy you. They'll just play through you because of the sheer firepower they have in the front line. I mean, it says something they didn't even have Sam Kerr in the starting 11, but obviously you had Kirby, you had Fleming, so plenty of talent. And they got absolutely battered 6-0. Now I predicted a 6-0 scoreline for I think it was there we go. So it was Bright, Kirby, apologies if I pronounced this wrong, but Writing Kennard, Lawrence, Eva Jones, and Neem Charles. I predicted a 6-0, and it was just an off the cuff thing. And then when I saw how open Villa were, I mean, it was amazing. It took Chelsea 20 minutes to get the opening goal, because it could have been 2 or 3 up before that happened. I think they did the bar. I think they once cleared off the line. I mean, it says a lot that Van Domselaar was their best player and they conceded 6 goals because she stopped it being double figures. And so it was 2.5 half time. They just motored on in the second half. So I was feeling a bit smug that obviously I predicted the scoreline correctly, but a bit sort of annoyed that it's 3 more points for Chelsea. That pushes them further ahead. They're now top of the league going into as we record tomorrow's weekend, the Sunday fixtures. And I'm also annoyed because obviously Aston Villa was a team that I think I and many others had high hopes for. I don't know about you, Matt. I said in our pre-season sort of build-up, I think they'll make Europe. I thought that there was enough quality in that team with Rachel Daly. Obviously, big fans of Rachel Daly on the pod. As you know, with the firepower she was providing, how strong they looked last season, the fact they've signed, they lost Hannah Hampton, great goalkeeper. She's gone to Chelsea because their bench needs warming, and they've replaced her with an even better keeper, potentially in Van Domselaar, and it's just not worked. I know Darley's injured. I know that's a big thing with their midfield, that Darley's injured, but it can't just be the fact that one player in the midfield is missing, that you cannot defend as a team. You can't. And this is the thing I always deal with. Like any team can lose to Chelsea, and I'm going on a bit of a rant here. I'll try and wrap this up. But any team can lose to Chelsea. They're that good, okay? So you rock up. If you lose, fine. But for me, what matters more is the performance. Is it what did you show in that Chelsea game, even in defeat, that thinks, yeah, there's something I can build on for the next game. Did you create plenty of chances? Were you really good defensively, and it was just a bit of bad luck, deflection, or just a really good goal, a wicked cross, and nothing you could do about it? And there was nothing. There was nothing in that Villa game. There were just like 11 players just stood on the pitch that seemed to have no plan of attack. They seem to have no imagination or creativity, but we'll just pump it long, and Daly and Nobbs will run onto it, and maybe they'll get us a goal. And think, well, you have to either commit to the attack, or you go low block defense, like they did at Arsenal. Low block, deep defense. We're going to put 10 players behind the ball. We'll have Daly, maybe as the up will go long. We'll draw Chelsea on. We'll frustrate them. And then we'll see if we can ping them on the counter. And you think about the game at the Emirates Stadium. Obviously, they got their goal from a set piece, and then you had nothing for the rest of the game. And it took us over 90 minutes to finally crack them open. And when they did crack open, they completely folded. This time they folded on 20 minutes. And it's really, really disappointing. In our bottom of the league, 5 defeats in a row. They've got Bristol next. That's a relegation 6-pointer. I was joking about that the other day, but actually it is actually going to be a relegation 6-pointer. And it's really, really bizarre that they have their stock has fallen so quickly. I remember when Everton went big in the transfer window, when they had Willie Kirk as manager, and people were sort of bigging him up and thinking, they're going to be this big side, they're going to take on Europe. And I watched and I thought, no, they're going to fall short. I can't see it happening, and didn't. But I got conned by Aston Villa, and I thought, no, they're going to do it this time. I should have, applied the same rationale, and I didn't. They're in a whole load of mess. Now, they have been obviously a bit unlucky with the fixtures. They had, I think it was Man United for the opener. They obviously played Arsenal. They played Chelsea, but they did also have Liverpool and Spurs, 2 games I think they would have expected to have got at least a point from either of them. The fact that they've lost all 5 is not good enough. They've got Bristol next. If they don't get anything out of that, I mean, we are getting to a point where I think, Carla Ward done great things for Aston Villa the last 2 seasons. I think, I don't want to call for people's, jobs and say, that people should be sacked, but I think her position has to be maybe questioned. Is there a manager that could get more out of this group of players? This is a team that has the likes of Anna Patton, who we know very well, Jordan Nobbs, who we also know very well, Lucy Sandefjord. I think it's Kirsty Hansen, I think, as well on the wings. Obviously Rachel Daly, Van Domsel. There is enough quality in that team to put up, if not get the result, to put up a better performance than they did today, and it simply wasn't good enough. So yeah, food for thought for Aston Villa.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? That I think a lot of people did look at this Villa side at the start of the season and gone, I think that they are going to be challenging for Europe, or they could very well get in there.
They beat us the last day of the season. They pushed Man United very close in their home game. It took a late, I think it was a Millie Turner header, like last kick of the game, last head of the game, to get the win there. They got to the FA Cup semi-finals. They did a lot of good stuff. They beat Man City opening game, brilliant game at Villa Park, 1-4-3, and that was sort of like a wow. Okay, Villa are here, and they're here to sort of make waves and take teams on. They're not gonna sit back and be defensive. They're going to go at teams. They're going to attack. They're going to take the game to them. And it just hasn't happened. They've done neither. They didn't take Chelsea on. They didn't defend well either. I mean, that's if you're not. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's the old thing. If you're not scoring goals, you're not defending well, you've got no game plan. I'm afraid there is only one direction you're heading, and it is not Europe.
It feels like they need to do something different. They can't keep affording to do the same things because people are going to find you out. And it seems like the trick of giving Rachel Daly the ball and expecting her to be their saviour this season is not going to be that. But there was some other news alongside that, and I think you should be the one to break this one, Adam, because I was unaware about this until I was halfway towards an FA Cup game, which ended in a 5-1 loss. But
Who was the FA Cup game? What was that?
Marine versus
Marine, wasn't
Harrogate
it?
Town.
I
So,
heard about
yeah.
this on the radio. It sounded like the dream has died sadly. So bad luck Marine, but good to have got this far. Yes, it came up in the Twitter feed. I mean, I turned the game off at full time. I no desire to listen to the talk about how amazing Chelsea were. And then it came up in a notification that Emma Hayes, this will be her last season. Her time is up. It's her last season at Chelsea. It is an end of an era. And while I don't think it has been officially confirmed, the rumours are strong enough from what I've read on the various articles. I think the Telegraph broke it. The Athletic have spoken about it as well. And there is extreme confidence that she is going to be the next manager of the US women's national team, which is incredible. Well, obviously, I think we will try and talk about it in a greater depth on the next pod. I think there's more to pick apart when more of the news comes out and we can sort of pick apart. But I mean, initial thoughts are, I mean, it's a very big move for Emma Hayes. It's international football. It's a different kettle of fish from managing club level. For starters, you can't just buy in the players you want. Sam Kerr and Frank Kirby will not be eligible for the US women's national team. Sadly, she's going to have to find her own star forward and playmaker. But she's she will be managing the USA. There's plenty of stardom out there. There's plenty of talent you can pick from. I mean, I think she has experience playing in the NWSL. I think she has managed over there before. I think before she managed in Chelsea, she did manage over there. I think it's 11 years, I want to say. I think she's been at the club at Chelsea, and her impact, I mean, she's brought. We don't obviously like Emma Hayes because she's a Chelsea manager and she sort of took Chelsea to where Arsenal used to be. But she's been brilliant. She's been an amazing manager for Chelsea women, and she has dragged Chelsea women to the top of the league and dragged the WSL behind her as well, because Chelsea have become the standard bearer of what as a football club in terms of in terms of talent, in terms of results, and in terms of winning trophies. They have led the path, and we've had to walk in their shadow. And there've been a few seasons when Man City won the league and when Arsenal won the league, but other than that, it's just been Chelsea win the league, Chelsea win the league, Chelsea win the league, and then they might win a cup as well. And I don't think the WSL will be at the standard it is now if it wasn't for Emma Hayes and the Chelsea team that she's coached, sort of leading that charge forward. So she deserves a lot of credit. She's been an amazing coach. For the managing manager for the Chelsea women team. She's been a thorn in our side on many occasions. And so it lines up a very sort of interesting sort of conclusion potentially, because we all know there's one trophy that Emma Hayes wants, and that is the Champions League. She hasn't got it with Chelsea. She had one final. She had a crack at it, and it went very badly wrong. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of, so I mentioned a lot of desire for this season to crack it. It's her last season before she potentially allegedly takes the US women's national team job, and I think they'd very much want to leave on a high. But I mean, it's a bit of a bombshell. I think the only reason they broke it, because it was an odd time to break it, I think the only time they broke it today, whereas we recorded on the Saturday, it is because the US were about to announce it, or it was about to be leaked in the press anyway, so it was sort of get ahead of the curve. But there's a next season. It's going to be weird not having Emma Hayes on the touchline, not having her managing the Chelsea team. So it just making you wonder who's going to be next. Again, it's probably just, I'm sure there'll be list of names that'll come out on soon, rumours and links and so on. But I mean, who would you give it to, Matt? Just off the cuff.
Well, this is the thing. I think with Emma Hayes, essentially she's built that entire thing herself.
Oh yes, it's her project.
Just to quickly explain the history or expand on that history, essentially, Vic Akers was manager of the Arsenal women's for a long time. He was as soon as he was going to step down, he was expecting Emma to step in and become the new manager. She decided not to do that because she wanted to become her own manager, build her own philosophy and things like that. So essentially, if you follow the men's football, bit similar to what's been happening from Ajax, the Johan Cruyff, and then goes to Barcelona, and Barcelona build this huge identity. You get Pep Guardiola, now Pep Guardiola has been Arteta is now at Arsenal, etc. It's a huge chain of events, and essentially potentially Chelsea might look inside their own, whether it's going to be an academy manager or under 21 before
Yeah.
maybe looking at other people. I've seen a couple of Chelsea fans respond to a couple of one tweet to ask them who they'd won. One person has said about Casey Stoney, that seems to be a popular choice.
She did great things with Man United in those seasons. I mean, she's in the NWSL now, I believe, and doing good things over there. But she was very popular.
Her contract has finished with San Diego Wave. So this is now the difficulties, because I think she's weighing up her options. I believe that there is another there's two team expansions as well in the NWSL. In the year, because they go by calendar year instead of doing it from September to May. Bit of an odd one, but you do whatever you can. It's difficult to say for certain, but you know that they're going to try and get someone really good in. But it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to go the Man United way, where they're going to bring in manager after manager, expecting instant success, and either they'll get 1 or 2 seasons of success and then it all falls apart, or it will be very much similar to the men's game, where you bring in a manager, he might do well, he might not, it'll last about 6 months, and then you find the right manager further down the line.
This is always the danger with a long-lasting successful manager, and I compare this in terms of longevity, but I'm not saying, they don't really compare, but like Vic Akers, legendary Arsenal women's manager. I mean, just there's no, hence the name of our podcast, but yeah, legendary, won everything, we won under him. But when he left, Arsenal did taper off quite badly, and fell out of winning the titles, fell out of Europe. Really became a bit of a we'll try and win a cup every year, so we win the League Cup or the FA Cup. Didn't become regular league titles. We've only won. I think he'd left by the time the WSL started. I think we had another manager who managed about two seasons or so, and then we won the league. And then Shelley Kerr came in, and then Arsenal nosedived, and they've only won the league once since. So replacing a manager of that length of time is incredibly difficult, and we've seen with the men's team, as you said. Alex Ferguson did the replacement. We did replacement with David Moyes. It all went a bit Pete Tong. Hasn't quite happened with Arsene Wenger. We had a major wobble, and it looked like we were going that way. It looks like maybe we've wrestled it back a bit. It's going to be very difficult with Chelsea, because everything has, as you say, it's been Emma Hayes' project. Emma Hayes has been everything. She's managed every part of that team. It's been hers. To replace that with somebody else, it's a massive undertaking. And rival fan bases, not saying we wish ill upon people or clubs, but the rival fans will obviously be bringing aside the leaf that she's gone, and will also hope that maybe a David Moyes scenario happens, and they bring a manager in who is simply not up to snuff, and Chelsea nosedive, and it goes into a similar level of chaos we've seen with their men's team when they have a new manager every half season or season, trying to chase the tail, but it's gone off onto the horizon. So next season, fascinating. Now, she is going to play out the season. That's one of the big things. Is she's not going to leave middle of the season. She's going to play it out. There's not going to be any sort of compensation. They're going to leave compensation. She's going to leave with their blessing and wish her the best. Fully amicable. And it'll be the end of an era, one of the big eras of WSL. So we'll see what happens this season. We'll see what happens next season. Very, very interesting.
I am curious though, because you've got a couple of Chelsea players that will be out of contract. Emma Hayes is essentially the pulling force for Chelsea. Maybe a lot of them might be considering their future because of this as well.
Well, it depends on the appointment. That's whether the manager appointments go so good. I was having a joke with some friends. Imagine if Frank Lampard was appointed. He knows the club, it's Chelsea and all that. But imagine if he appointed a manager that wasn't good enough. Like, I don't know.
Gareth Taylor.
Now, hang on. We've got a Man City preview to do. We don't want to start jinxing things. But there are managers who have managed WSL who simply haven't been up to snuff or being caught short. And the equivalent for Arsenal is Shelley Kerr. If you bring in a manager of that level that has effect on the team, players will leave. I mean, it's no wonder. I mean, look at the talent we had that deserted Arsenal very quickly, which meant we lost to Birmingham in the Champions League quarter-final. This is going to be one of the biggest summers of Chelsea women's sort of existence, because they have built this legacy under Emma Hayes for so long, and if they get this appointment wrong, they risk losing all of that. So the major crossroads are coming up next summer, and I can't wait to see what happens.
So with that in mind, we will probably dive into it a little bit more, because as you may be listening, Lottie isn't with us tonight. We do wish her well. She will be definitely with us, fingers crossed, for Tuesday's podcast. But for now, we are on to the Arsenal versus City, the game at Meadow Park, 12:30 kickoff. 27 matches. Arsenal have won 12, City have won 13, and 2 draws between the sides. The last 5 games. I think you were going to mention something, weren't you, before?
No, go for it. No.
Last 5 games, the Conti Cup win, which Stina Blackstenius finally scored in, giving a little bit of a lift of getting the monkey off her shoulders in terms of finally getting the post. Of the amount of times that I remember her. One moment that stuck out to me last season was there was an opportunity to just dink over the goalkeeper and just hits the goalkeeper right in the face at Zurich. The game against Academy at the Academy Stadium lost 2-1. Hempen Kelly scored, with Raffaele scoring from a free kick routine.
Yeah.
Then the home game at Meadow Park, Bunny Shaw opening the scoring, and then Frida Mornham getting the equaliser, with Katie McCabe scoring the banger of bangers to get Arsenal once again into Champions League football.
Yes.
And then the season before that, the 1-1 game at the Academy Stadium, Bunny Shaw scored the opener once again. Tobin Heath scoring that equaliser. Ironically enough, Chiara Keating was in goal that day. I was there again for that one. That was a really good game. I was just hoping that Arsenal would put a little bit more pressure on the goalkeeper that day, and she's turned out to be a really good goalkeeper. But just before that, the last of the game was the 5-0 thumping. Viv scored. I will not try to pronounce the name because I'll get it wrong, and then all the Dutchies will be after me when I return to the Emirates. Kim Little with a brace, Katie McCabe and Leah Williamson complete the scoring that day. So a lot of stats in there for you.
It's an interesting fixture. I mean, you said about the draws. Is that in all competitions, or is it just in the WSL?
I believe it's all competitions, yes.
All right, because I think the draws would be obviously the 1-1 we had. I don't know if the cup finals count, because we had a 0-0 draw back in 2019 and we lost on penalties in the League Cup final. This is always find an interesting one, because it's when Chelsea have always been winning the league, it's always sort of been an arm wrestle between Arsenal and Man City, sort of a dominance, and hence why the win ratio is near level. I think it's only about 1 or 2 wins either way. So the logic normally goes that Arsenal will win the home game. Arsenal home game win, the home team wins. So Arsenal win at Meadow Park, and then Man City win at the Academy Stadium. And we haven't won the Academy since 2017. Man City haven't won at Meadow Park since the lockdown season of 2021. I think it was, when I think it was Ellen White and I want to say Hemp got the goals. It was a 2-1 defeat. It wasn't a good one. Now, as you eloquently put, Matt, you don't rate Gareth Taylor as a manager.
I was just putting it out. It's not me that's saying that. I don't rate him as a manager or anything. There are Man City fans that have had enough of Gareth Taylor, full stop, and they don't understand why he's still at the club. It's not just me. There are other managers out there that a lot of fans do not have the time for or sympathy for, and don't understand why they're still in their job. He
almost won the league with Man City during that lockdown season. I think they were a Ann-Katrin Berger save at the Academy Stadium, where if that goal goes in, I think it's like last few minutes of corner, that goal goes in, Man City basically are going to win the league. But under the way that Man City play, it's high intense, it's high energy, sort of press from the front. And I remember watching them at Meadow Park last season for the first goal. The passing they have is really good, and that's because they've got I think it's Hasegawa, I think it is in the in the midfield
Yeah.
in the heart. What an acquisition she was, especially with Kira Walsh leaving for Barcelona. And she was immense in that first half. Bunny Shaw, brilliant striker. I mean, with Gav Taylor, the passing is always really good. There's a lot of high energy press, so it's very difficult to play out. And you've got the front three of Hemp, Kelly, and Bunny Shaw. Hemp Kelly on the wing, Shaw in the middle, and it is high press, forced turnovers, whip balls in onto Bunny Shaw's head, and she'll head them in, and she'll get the goals. And that's how the goal happened at Meadow Park. It's very effective, and I say it's like also with Chelsea, is if you're not set up properly, Man City can run up a cricket score against you. I've seen it happen many times with other teams. So this is going to be a real test for Arsenal. We should say until the Chelsea game, Chelsea result rather, early today, Man City were top of the league. They're unbeaten. Should have beaten Chelsea. We're very unlucky not to beat Chelsea at the Academy Stadium, but they are still unbeaten. We are 3 points behind with a considerably lesser goal difference. It's going to be a massive goal swing for us to overtake them, but certainly we can draw level with a win. It's going to be probably the toughest game we've had since the Man United game at the LSV early in the season, and I'm always nervous about this one because I think this is a game where we have the talent to win. It's whether we do. I mean, last season we were lucky to go in 1-0 down at half time. I think Sabrina made some brilliant saves in the first half to keep it at 1-0, and then Jonas made a tactical change, brought on Jodie Taylor, shuffled I think from a 4 to a 3 at the back, and we were saved by Frida scrambling one in, and then as you say, Katie McCabe scoring an absolute belter into the top corner. Now again, I wasn't behind the goal, but I was behind sort of the trajectory of the ball, when Katie struck it, and it was a work of art. It was an incredible thing to behold. This game, as you say, doesn't often involve draws. It's usually a win. I think it will be a win. I don't know. I just fear if Man City are on it, as they can be, and they've got Jill Roord now in their ranks, recently acquired from Wolfsburg. They're only signing, but she's not started badly for them. She's got 3 goals already, and as we know from whenever we played Wolfsburg, she always has a habit of scoring against us, which is a shame because she didn't really score much for us when she was playing for us, which is rather annoying. So she'll have a point to prove. She'll want to return to Meadow Park with a goal. So it's going to be tricky. It's going to be a tough one, but it's a great way to sort of kickstart the Meadow Park season because it's our first game back at Meadow Park this season, but 2 home games at Emirates Stadium. This is our first Meadow Park game of the season. I think it's a sellout already. I think it's all been
confirmed.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get a really good attendance. It'd be great if we could top 4,000, but I'm expecting somewhere around 3,700, 3,800. I reckon it'll be. I think the atmosphere will be great. I think the occasion will be great. It's whether Arsenal turn up, and it will also be interesting to see how Arsenal do line up. Obviously, with the international break, the Australian contingent came back late because I think they had 3 games in the Asian qualifiers, not 2, so they've had to play a bit more. How many of them will start or even get any minutes? Will he start with Russo, who has, let's be honest, was patchy for England and has sort of been slightly patchy for us. Whilst the build-up and the hold-up play, the setup's all fine. Goal-wise, she's only got 1 WSL goal so far this season. Are we going to trust her to start, or do we start with Stina and then bring off the bench? I think it's going to be interesting to see how Jonas approaches this. It's a massive game. If we win it, it's great. We season's are back on track. If we lose it, I think we'd probably say, is it too early to say the title's over? It certainly makes it extremely difficult if we lose this game. I think this is the win. If we win this one, this sort of counters the Liverpool loss early in the season. So it gets us back into the higher order, and it's like, okay, we've shaken off that loss. This is the win that gets us back in the game, and we're off. If we lose it, I think we're going to be in a bit of a pickle.
Just to put it into perspective, those that have gone on to win the title, they usually lose 1 or 2 games. That's it. They don't lose any more than that. If they lose any more than that, they've lost the title.
Yeah.
So essentially, it now means that we've got 1 more loss in our locker to realistically be within the title fight. You could probably argue that with Villa being poor at the moment, that you could probably counter that and say, well, you could probably say that teams are more likely to lose this season because of the unpredictability of other teams in the league. I mean, you look at Tottenham, for example. Martha Thomas has been scoring for fun, and she's now top goal scorer. And Tottenham are undefeated at the moment as well.
I mean, Tottenham are not
Oh,
undefeated.
sorry,
As I said,
no, they lost one.
they did
I
lose
keep on
2-1.
doing that.
We keep forgetting that they did actually lose their opening game at Stamford Bridge. But Tottenham, you're obviously the men's team are sadly undefeated at the moment, but the women's team did actually lose their opening game. But Spurs have been good. Spurs have been good this season. They've had a good start. Martha Thomas, I think she got a hat trick against Villa, but then again, it's like it's Aston Villa this season, and the worse the results get, the less weight you can sort of apply to what could be a good performance. Because if everybody's scoring, it's the old was it line, if everyone's a hero, no one is. If everyone is getting a really good result against Aston Villa, the notion of it being a really good result sort of wanes slightly. So I think Spurs have been good, but that also, I think the obviously got the derbies coming up in December. I'm really looking forward to those. I think they see how far Tottenham have come over the last since their appointment and over the summer transfer window. Yeah, so at the moment, Man City second, Arsenal seventh. A win, hopefully. I don't know if a win would definitely mean top three. I think there's a few other results will have to go our way. I think Man United are away at Brighton. We need them to drop points. Leicester, Liverpool play each other, so there's going to be some drop points there anyway. But there's certainly it's a big weekend to potentially make up some ground.
I think that it might be a bit too early to call about Europe and titles and things like that. As far as I'm concerned, wait till the end of December. We've got Chelsea and Tottenham in that run as well. Essentially, we played all the big teams,
big
in
hitters.
the league. So, and then it just leaves us on the other side against the other teams left. And for me, this game is gonna. I did say it was going to be end to end against Bristol, and I kind of got what I wanted, a very end to end entertaining game. And I know the game was only 2-1, but it felt so much. It could have been 3-4 or anything like that because of how end to end it was.
We should say with the Bristol game, they had one effort on goal, one on target. I think it was.
Yes, Rachel Furness with a brilliant header.
It was a brilliant header, and this is the big issue with us at the moment is how potent attack is going to be, because we can't just rely on Katie McKay-Worldies to win games. The irony being is that it's actually how we won last season. It was the Katie McKay-Worldy, but we can't keep. Like we said with the whole Yen Beattie playing auxiliary forward, we can't just keep replaying the Katie McCabe Worldy card and get wins. There has to be a point where this attack clicks and start showing an element of fluidity and connectivity. And now that the players know where their partner's going to be. We get runners, we get movement, and it's not just whipping aimless crosses in and hoping that someone gets ahead on it. There has to be a much greater attacking intelligence. Now, what will benefit Arsenal this weekend is that they shouldn't be playing a low block, because Man City are going to be coming at them. So there should be space to play with. It's one of the reasons why we were able to get the opening goal at the LSV, because obviously Man City were committing. We were able to attack quickly on the counter. So there will be spaces to play with, and hopefully we can exploit them. Just don't concede first. I mean, that's the main thing. And if you do, don't concede early. At least give us some goals on the board first. Whether it'll be interesting, obviously, with do we go back 3 or back 4? Obviously, we've flipped onto the back 4 for the last few games. The back 3 gives us more solidity against a potential Man City attack, but then obviously you're losing the midfield, and the midfield for Man City is so key. So, yeah, I at the moment there's so much. I'm not confident going into this game. I wish I was. I wish I was feeling that we could go in there and we could win it. And if we did win it, it's a massive shot in the arm for the team. But they don't know. I do have a lot of apprehension around this fixture, but I shall go there with hope in my heart that the team can properly kickstart the season on, build on the last 2 wins, and sort of show a bit of the form that we saw last season, because we know we can beat them. We've beaten them the last 2 seasons, including the 5-0, which will forever live in legend.
Well, as I've said, it's 162 days since that game against Aston Villa, since Meadow Park. So put it into perspective, it's been over 5 months and 9 days since we last played at Meadow Park.
What's even worse is it's even further back, and since we last had a home clean sheet, and even had a win at home, and that was the Leicester game. So again, we haven't done. Are we going to get a clean sheet? We haven't had a clean sheet at all this season. It would be ideal if we could get one against Man City, but that's probably going to be one of the harder ones to achieve it on.
So I'm just trying to look for Man City's updates. So here we go. So Alex Greenwood definitely out because of the concussion protocols. I was meant to mention this during the England. This is the third time Alex Greenwood has had a concussion this year.
Year?
During an England game, the final ESMA, the World Cup, and now the game against Belgium.
Which World? I vaguely remember the World Cup.
I can't. I think it was the group stage games, and she'd gone up for a header.
Did she just get bandaged up? I think it was.
Yes.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. I mean, that's just wretched luck, isn't it?
Alex. Yeah, I think Alex. Yeah, Alex Greenwood definitely out with concussion. Lauren Hemp is fine. But there doesn't seem to be any other injury updates on that. So it's just Alex Greenwood that'll be out. So that's another intriguing one because they rely heavily on Alex Greenwood.
I mean, she's one of the best defenders. I mean, Alex Greenwood has become one of the best defenders in the league. I mean, she was sort of a fullback. I think she's now a centre back more so now. Well, she's a left back, so that's left centre back. And obviously, set pieces are good, distribution's good. I thought she had a good World Cup, but that's a massive hole in the defence. And who they bring in to replace her, I mean, will be key. Steph Houghton, maybe club captain, maybe alongside Kennedy. Could be. Would it be? That's another ex-Arsenal player. Whether she has the ability and the pace at that point in her career to be able to handle the likes of Arsenal will be interesting to see. I do wonder if Mead will start or get a game, or maybe Lacasse. I think we've got to get fast wingers, in my view, to support the likes of Russo or Stino, whoever starts. And certainly we've looked better whenever Mead has come on the pitch in the last two WSL games. So yeah.
If you were to pick your starting 11,
walked into that one, didn't I?
we'll just do this just to make it easier. So I'll go with mine just to make it a little bit easier. I always think against Man City, Sabrina is the best player to have because you've got Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp and Bunny Shaw as your front three. They're going to put balls in the box for days. Sabrina's going to come and she's going to make sure that she comes collect. She's had an outstanding time over the last twice. It was twice actually. She played them at Meadow Park and she's done really well. Only conceded that one goal, and that was the Bunny Shaw goal. Then it's a case of, do you rest Steph Catley because she's had a long journey? She's only just had training today, same as Caitlin Ford and Cara Cooney-Cross. So I would probably expect Katie to start at left back. That then leaves the centre back pairing of bearing in mind that Lotta will be definitely one of those centre backs. Do you risk Amanda or do you play Leia? I would like to see Leia start this one. Nothing against Amanda. I love Amanda. It's just that I don't want to risk anyone for the necessity of injuries. She's very much touch and go, same as Lena Hurtig.
Yeah, I was going to say there's been injury speculation around Amanda and Lena. I've seen in the news, so that they might make Jonas' decision for him.
So if it's Leila and Lotta as a centre back, then you've got the only choice of right back in Noel Merritts. You'd expect the usual three to probably be playing in the midfield of Leah, Kim, and to be honest, I would love to give Freedom Leonard and Mornham a rest, but at this moment in time, with Viv not 100% back and ready to start, she's going to have. I think Frida will have to start. That then questions who you put on the left, who you put on the right, and if if Lena's not available, if Katie's playing left back, then it means, and let's say for argument's sake that because of she hasn't had much training time compared to the others, that Caitlin will be on the bench. You'd have to then probably look at putting probably Chloe on there. Then I think you'd probably have to start Stina for this game, just because just need Alessia to have a bit of a rest. Although you have mentioned that Alessia does score against City.
Yes, I put a nice little clip up of Alessia. She scored in a Manchester derby. It was finished 2-2 in that instance, but it was a very good goal. Who would you have right wing then?
Right, wait, that's a difficult one because then you can't again.
You've run out of players, haven't you?
You put right. The only player left on to play right would be Beth, or if you're not really feeling 100% on giving Beth, you'd have to give it to Gio, and Gio has not started an entire game or played any minutes this season.
I've got the team sheet up from our last home game when McCabe got that winner, last home game against Man City, rather. And Sabrina started in that one in goal. McCabe left back, Wibbermoy, that was with Rafa in this defence, with Maritz at right back. So looking at that, I think you could swap out maybe Hafa for Lea Cadena, and I think that would be acceptable. Volti was alongside Williamson in that instance. Obviously Williamson's out, but we could have Volti Little, so that sorts itself out. And then attack, you had Ford, Frida, and Palova.
Yeah. Why?
I know.
Crucified, aren't I? Someone's somewhere. I'm gonna see an orange dagger, and it'll be your friends all crucify me for not saying Victoria. But yeah, Victoria was playing on the right.
She was playing on the right for that one, and then you had obviously Stina up front at the time. Now, obviously, I'm a big fan of Alessia Russo, being the local hero for us, and obviously I did actually last weekend, as a shameless plug, did go and visit the shrine they have at BSFC to dedicate it, because that's where she started her career. It's a fantastic bit of artwork, and did a piece on that, which you can obviously read, supporting her. I think I'd want Russo to start, as obviously she is a player I'm repping on my back after all. But at the same time, you do question is how strong has her form been. Her and Stina scored the same amount of goals in the WSL this season. Russo did not have a great international break. Is it worth maybe putting on the bench and starting Stina instead? I think there is a case for that. I do think Jonas will start Russo anyway. I just think that's where he's going now. He's just playing Russo as the main striker. But I think there is a case that you could start Stina instead. So I would start Sabrina in goal. If we're assuming that the Australian contingent cannot play, because of obviously the fact that they've played more internationals, if they come back late, I'd imagine they'd be on the bench as an option. Then yes, it has to be McCabe at left back, and then it has to be Maritz at right back, and the midfield to sort itself out.
If they are deemed fit, though, would you definitely have them as your left side options?
Well, this is the thing, because my preference on the left flank is Catley and Ford, because I like that combination play, the Aussie connection. But then it's where do you put McCabe? Because for me, she's not a right back, and for me, she's not a right winger. Now, I know she scored 2 goals against Bristol, but they were not goals because she was a right winger. They were goals because she was on the pitch and scored 2 great goals from cleared set pieces. In fact, when she scored against Aston Villa, that great goal from the near post, that was her operating on the left. So I don't like seeing McCabe on the right. She's not like a Saka. She can't invert the way you want to, because the likes of Russo, you want players that are running beyond her, not sort of running into her. So at the same time, she doesn't deserve to come out of the team because she's been brilliant. So I think the only way you can work it is probably, if Ford is fit, you start Ford on the left, and then you play maybe McCabe at left back. I think that's the only way maybe you could justify it. I've never really been convinced when McCabe has been a left winger and Catley has been left back. I just don't think the two really worked. That being said, if the Australian contingent is fully fit, the safer defence would be to have Steph Catley as the left-sided centre-back alongside Wibbermoy, with McCabe as left back, because we've used that before last season when Hafa and Lea were out injured, and we know it works. So maybe that's something else we could fall back onto. As for attack, I wouldn't be surprised if Mead started, or at least was the first sub off the bench in the second half. I think at the 10 position, I don't think Frida deserves to start. But then it's a question of who you do start. Now, when we had the Bristol game, I thought it was going to be Pullover in the 10 with Little and Volti next to each other. It wasn't. What happened is that it was Little in the 10 and Volti Pullover as the two pivots. Now, you can sort of get away with that because you're playing Bristol. No offense, Bristol City. I wanted to see Pullover at 10. I think Pullover deserves a crack at playing as the lead sort of centre of the pitch, rather, conductor. I think she deserves to have a crack at that with Volti and Little at the base of the midfield. But we'll see what Jonas does. There's so many variants. It depends so much on how players have come back from the international break. I would go Sabrina in goal. I'll go McCabe, Laya, Lotta, Maritz, Little and Volti, Ford, Pelova, Mead, and Russo. But actually, no, sorry, not Mead and Russo. Because we're forgetting our Canadian superstar. I think if Ford's playing left wing, if Ford is fit to play left wing, then play Lacasse right wing. If Ford's not fit to play left wing, we could put Lacasse on the left and Mead on the right. I think this could be a game for Lacasse, actually. I think this is a game she probably should be starting. If McCabe's not playing on the right wing, McCabe's on the left back, I think Lacasse could warrant a start. I mean, we know she scores well days like McCabe. Saw that against Man United. And outside swing, I think Lacasse might get a start on this one.
I find it so interesting. You can pick Chloe to play left or right because she can do both, but she can also play up front as well.
She could lead the line, but I don't think she is the type of forward.
I don't think she was brought in for that. But say if needed to, or if Jonas really wanted to make some changes and give I know we've got Bristol at home next Thursday as well in the League Cup, so plenty of time to tinker and think, try and do different things, and give different people some games. But do you wonder if he's got one eye on that as well?
I think that game, we will see likes of Kyra Cooney cross-play in the Bristol game. I think Kyra will definitely start that one. I think a lot of the newer signings, if they're fit, will play the Bristol at home game. If that makes sense. Bristol home game. I think that's a game that we'll see Stina start. I think you will see the entire squad rotated heavily for that. I think likes of Palova will definitely start. Molekul will start. Gio might get a game. I think that'll be the one where the ones that have been pushing the first team in training will come in. I think that the beauty about actually the situation we have is that we don't actually know what starting 11 we're going to go for. Because in the previous season, the starting 11 picked itself, because it wasn't a case of who was right, it was a case of who was left. Our team was picked by injuries. We had Leah Williamson in the midfield because Kim Little was got injured at Bayern Munich and was ruled out for the season. So we now have options. We've just listed very slowly and sort of clumsily so many different permutations that Jonas has now. He's not got one card, one team he can play. He's got 4 or 5 different combinations.
It's almost like an Uno reverse card, isn't it?
I know.
I've got the Katie McCabe Uno reverse card. Oh, but I can reverse her onto the left wing, or I can reverse her on the right side. I think that's been a great key, and I think that's going to be one of our biggest weapons this season is our versatility, and that teams are not going to be able to track our players as easily as they could like last season.
I mean, a lot of those players, as much as we got a lot of quantity, we've got great quantity compared to last season. But as you say, a lot of players can play all over the pitch. McKay can play in the front line, she can play in the back line. Catley can play left centre back, she can play left back. Pelova can play in the centre of the park, she can play in the wing, she could arguably play right back. I mean, she plays right wing back for the Dutch national side. So that is in her locker as well. There's a case that you can maybe make Russo a winger. I mean, she was one of the twin 10s at Man United, and we've seen her make plenty of darts into the channel. So yes, Jonas has a bigger toy set to play with now, and that gives him the advantage of rotation, but it gives us the issue of trying to pick the right team for the right situation. I remember some pundits saying, "Oh, how's he going to keep everybody happy? He's got too many players now." I'm thinking, this is exactly what we want because and we're going to have even more players because I reckon Meadow will come off the bench. I reckon she will come on off the bench second half and will play as a 10. And we said in the previous pod, she looks good, albeit against Bristol City, but her passing range, if she can get that going, playing in the likes of Russo or Stina, whoever is leading the line. I mean, even if the game goes wrong, Jonas is not going to be short of options to change it. It's not like he's going to have to do a fancy tactical switch and throw Jodie Taylor on just to try and offer something different. He can change the entire front line. He could sub off these four forwards and bring 4 fresh forwards on for the last 30 minutes to try and change the game. He could, if he wants to flip between maybe a back 3 and a back 4. I don't think he will. I think it'll be a back 4. But he has got the arsenal, for choice of a better word, on the bench to salvage the game, which has been needed these last few games. Hopefully, won't come to that, but yeah. It's going to be interesting. A lot of these players, I say interesting a lot, but it's going to be intriguing a lot because this is for our new signings, not just Rousseau, but the likes of Kadina, their first Meadow Park home experience. We should say that Rousseau has actually scored in her last 2 trips to Meadow Park. So she's already got a taste for it. So hopefully she can take that form into the Arsenal as well.
I just think a lot of this is going to be it's going to be a sellout. We know that for a fact because it always is these days at Meadow Park. It's so difficult to get tickets. What was the line? It's you're probably more likely to get tickets for a Bruce Springsteen's concert or just pick a band of your choice. It doesn't have to be an 80s legend as such. You're a dealer's choice at the end of the day.
But this is actually a big point. This came up in Jonas' press conference because he was asked about this, because it being a sellout and the struggle. I mean, imagine the world 5 years ago. You'd struggle to get tickets for Meadow Park. I mean, the first game there, I think the attendance was around 1,000, maybe slightly over 1,000, and that seems good. Oh, we just got to 1,000, decent attendance, nice. Now you can't get tickets, which is just bonkers. And Jonas sort of asked about this, the fact that it was the first few games we played at the Emirates Stadium. They weren't sellouts, but they were decent attendances. And now you're going to Meadow Park, where you're going from having 40,000 in the ground to 4,000. And the argument always comes up about, should Arsenal build a new ground for the women's team? I think Brighton are looking to do that, looking to move out of their Crawley home and actually have a dedicated women's football team ground, which is, fair play, a very impressive move. I don't know. What's your opinion? Should Arsenal? What's the future for Meadow Park, basically? Because we got the lease until Meadow Park into 2027. So how do we bridge this gap? We've got 4 more years of Meadow Park. Are we just we're almost losing out by playing there now because we can't, we're over committed to it as such. There's too many fans, not enough seats. When, do we move to Emirates Stadium? How do you see us managing these next 4 years if the growth continues as we hope?
Thing is, I look at a team like Leicester, for example, who are getting about roughly 1,000 fans there or thereabouts. Sometimes it's over the 4,000 or 5,000 mark, depending on who they're playing. I do wonder if Arsenal were playing, let's say, Crystal Palace get promoted next season. Arsenal at home at the Emirates. How many do you reckon would probably turn up for a game against Crystal Palace? It's hard to say. Would it be the 4,000 or would you be expecting around that 10,000 mark?
I think we'd do better than that because I look at the Aston Villa game as a marker. I mean, let's be frank about it. That was the game against the bottom side of the WSL and could well be for the rest of the season based on the current form. That wasn't a top team. That wasn't a Chelsea. That wasn't a Liverpool. I say Liverpool. I mean Chelsea, Man United, Spurs. It wasn't a team that is currently at the top half of the table, or is normally a top half team. This was the closest to a normality fixture for the Emirates Stadium. It's why it's a bit of a curious pick. and with no advertising, no big push, no big, ding dong, come to the games with regular updates and players really pushing for it, because all the energy was on the Liverpool game. It was fascinating to see how under advertised the Villa game was. And I think we still got just over, was it 35, 37,000? We got a pretty good haul, enough to effectively set up the lower tier and sell some upper tier seats. Now, for me, that is an acceptable use of Emirates Stadium. If you get 30,000 in, that's fine. And it looks like that is sort of the base crowd. Without encouraging people to come, 30,000 people willing to commit to go to watch Arsenal that weekend. So I think there is a case that we could increase our Emirates games more, certainly for the WSL fixtures. I think for the Conti Cup and the FA Cup, I think there's a case they should probably stay at Meadow Park, because I just don't think, especially the earlier rounds, they're just not going to draw the fans in. But for the WSL, and if we qualify for Champions League again, the Champions League games, 100%. I think it should be Emirates Stadium. I know that is the long-term plan. Vinay, in one of his interviews, said he wants the women's team at Emirates Stadium full-time. It's just a question of how long it's going to take for them to get there. I know there was talk in the past that they maybe could have made a sort of a halfway house stadium, say 10,000 for the women's team. The problem is just there was no land. And anything you do, if the direction is long term, eventually, like do Leicester play every game at the King Power regardless? FA Cup, League Cup, WSL, is every game at the King Power.
It should be, because essentially the whole club's it's supposed to be like a one team, one club. They don't, like Bristol, for example. Bristol, I believe they won their home games at the academy. Their academy set up instead of playing at the.
Was that the Conti Cup? Or was that the WSL?
That was in the Conti Cup.
Yeah,
I know for certain in the WSL, Bristol will use the Ashton Gate, but it's just at this moment in time, there's a lot of questions, but there's also a lot of side questions alongside that. So let's just take the player interaction side of it as well. They're not going to be able to interact with any of the players. They're not. That's going to have to go.
That will go regardless of weapons. Yeah.
What I would like to see is, if that's the case, then they do a fan draw, or let season ticket holders or people that usually are regularly going, maybe invite them to a special training session afterwards, let them meet the fans and things like that. Something that sort of gives back in a different way, and it's not.
There used to be a membership thing, didn't it? There used to be a membership. I remember when I first joined the season ticket thing, there was an Arsenal. It wasn't really a season ticket thing. It was like an Arsenal membership, and there were all sort of perks. I mean, during lockdown, I got invited onto Q&As with the likes of Lottie and Moy, and a pattern. And it was a Teams invite. You sat in there and you got to submit some questions, and got asked, and it was good fun. But that was obviously fan interaction, because we couldn't actually meet the players because of lockdown and COVID. Yeah, I think that's absolutely. I think a season ticket, maybe it's a tier of a season ticket. So it's your baseline. You get a seat for £5 extra. You can be put in a raffle for prizes. I know, signed boots and a signed. I mean, that was, I think, one of the things was you could. I mean, I won a signed scarf, which I was very chuffed with. But you could win signed boots and stuff. But I think that's more of an Arsenal supporters club thing now. The signed merchandise giving out. I think there is definitely something for that. If it is meet the players rather in after the game, or at London Colney, because then the Arsenal media will have a field day filming fans with the players.
Yeah.
That will only just sort of cycle more, and they'll be splattered all over Twitter, and people will say, oh look, here's a selfie of me with Chloe Lacasse or whatever, or here's me with Kyle Green, and it will just fan interaction is one of the big sort of cornerstones of women's football in the WSL. I just think you're absolutely right. I think the way that it's done has to change, because there are too many fans. And I mean, bless the players at Emirates Stadium, going around, trying to go around everyone and sign everyone, and likewise at Meadow Park. That it can't continue in that manner, sadly. But there has to be something that replaces it, and I think that's a great way that maybe they could do. Maybe you should put that in the stick it on the bulletin board at Meadow Park or something, or post a letter at London Colony saying, dear Claire Wheatley, I have an idea for you.
I think this is the thing, though, isn't it? a lot of ideas are going to come onto the table between the marketing team, the players interaction, the PR team, the
Advisory board.
the advisory board themselves. I mean, they would all be thinking and asking questions. I mean, I know there's been events with the sports club and things like that in the past where they've had players in and things like that, ex-legends as well. It would be nice to be able to do um things like that at the Emirates. You would imagine, like at some point, not just to have like a maybe like a one night for a women's only Willow Foundation fundraiser. Arsenal supporters are available to pay, say, £25. You get that includes your seat, your meal, whatever. It might be more because it's London, but there's so many options out there. It doesn't have to be so limiting. I've seen Everton do a training session and then afterwards they've gone and do signings and photos with the fans in the past in the lead up to a Merseyside derby. They've also done things where they've gone into the club shop and set themselves up and fans again photos, signs and things like that.
Arsenal did that actually when we won the league. It's one of the first interactions I had with the women's team. Is they had a thing where at the Emirates Stadium at the it was the Emirates Cup. They had a thing where you could meet the players with a trophy, which again just blows my mind that I was able to meet some of the players.
Still annoys me that you got one with one of my favourite Dutchies.
What, Jill Ward?
No, the other one.
Oh, Van der Donk. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
but we think that's bad. I'll say it again. When I have a picture taken with them, I didn't know who half the players were I was with. I didn't actually know who they
You
were.
know what? It probably made their day, that.
I was like, did I get a picture and I was with them, and then suddenly they're all like closing in on me. Socially awkward and all that. But yeah, I only knew Beth. I didn't know the others were. Obviously, I know who they are now, and I think this is one of the things. Is when I was with them, I was like, I need to start swatting up. I need to start learning who these players are, and maybe one day I'll appear on a fan podcast or something and be able to talk about it and pretend I know what I'm talking about. Who knows? Yeah, it does need correcting and stuff like that. As you say, training centres and stuff, training
Match day training,
open sessions.
Yes.
Fans go and watch a training, and then you get a picture of them. The only issue is, I think, with Arsenal is they're very hyper protective and secure about their training sessions. You can't just rock up to London Colney. I know, I've tried. It's all high fences and spotlights, and you're not allowed to walk into the ground, and they've got stewards out and signs saying players aren't going to stop for photos, don't hang around the entrance, all that. They're very secretive and protective because they don't want to give anything away. They don't want to give any, be with the players. And a fan, because fans now pretty clued on about football, could be making notes and going, okay, they're standing up in a 3-5-2 with Pullover as a sweeper, blah, blah, blah. And then put that on the old Twitter sphere, and suddenly Gareth Taylor has been going through trying to get some insight and go, oh, look at this. Matt L.R. Roberts is saying that Arsenal are lining up in a 3-5-2. We joke, but that is how these things can develop.
It does happen. We've seen it before, but even the media now, they are limited to like a 20-minute warm-up session. They look at only for 20 minutes in their warm-up sessions, and that's it. That's all they're entitled to, and then they go and do the presser, which is a bit different, but at the same time, I suppose it's a bit different in some ways. You don't really hear much about like them going, oh, is that the training now? So you might get your few tab bits to say, oh, all the players were training, and you might see, oh, Michelle was just having a little bit of was talking to a club doctor as well, something like that. You might find a tab bit on there. I'm not saying that Michelle has or hasn't. I'm just saying, I'm using an example.
Yeah, exactly.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens. And sadly, you've been going for over an hour.
Yes, we've covered a lot.
Covered a lot of information, and we hope to see you all.
Can we just do a quick match prediction, just very quickly?
Oh God.
I'm gonna be coward. I'm gonna say 2-1 because it always finishes 2-1 to a team. So it's going to finish 2-1. I'll say 2-1 Arsenal because I have to back the team. So what do you reckon?
I genuinely don't know how it's going to go, which is why I'm going to be.
Of course you do. Well, I do, because as we discussed earlier, my predictions are always 100% sound. So...
I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to go 1-1, but
you're going to go for a draw.
I think this game's going to be another end-to-end game. I don't think it's going to be.
I think it's going to be an end-to-end nerve shredder.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be some drama right to the death. 90th
Probably
minute. Don't know where it's going to go.
Caliphate.
Don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be something in the 90th minute, and it's just going to go. So can't wait for that one. I think it's live on the BBC. I think it's live.
Yes, it's live on the
BBC Two
BBC.
games. If you can't get to the game, tune into BBC Two or the FA Player, or wherever it is around the world, you're able to tune into. But yeah, it's 12. Is it 12 or 12:30 kickoff?
12:30.
12:30 kickoff. So yeah, do keep an eye out for that.
So just before we go, where can people find you, Adam?
You can find me at Adam Salter 4 on Twitter, where I post about nonsense about football, usually women's football, occasionally men's football, trying to speak rational stupidity in the endless swell of Twitter nonsense. Should say I have put a thing up, because one of the things I do is I combine my name with player names, just as a show of support for them. I have vowed that if Russo scores an Arsenal win at the weekend, I will be reverting my name back to normal. So that's on the line. If both those things happen, it's not one or the other. If Russo has to score and Arsenal have to win, if both those things happen, and own goals don't count, I will revert my name back to the normal Adam Salter. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, and you can find me on Instagram at Adam Salter 4, and I'm also on TikTok when I occasionally post videos, but I can't remember what my handle is, but I'm on there somewhere.
Mine is at MattLR28. You can also find Lottie at Lottie_AWFC. You can also follow us on VAW Pods, and that is all for us. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we hope you are having a good day, whether or not it's been good, it's bad. We hope that you enjoy whatever you've been doing. And thank you for listening, speaking, watching, whatever you're doing. And we hope to see you for the next one. Goodbye.